What's going on, YouTube? It's Teach coming back at you with another 2-round mock draft. This one's going to stay over here. This is an exclusive. You're getting 64 picks with yours truly. Really excited to run through this mock. I do also want to note, obviously most of my content's on 32 Beat Writers. Definitely give them a subscription here on YouTube. Give them a follow on X. This is, our time of the year where, 32 Beat Writers really starts to grow and expand, and we got you covered with every bit of NFL news that you're going to need, free agency all the way up through training camp, and of course the draft there in between. And I will have a very special mock draft coming out to you this weekend. So if you saw this mock draft, wanted to see more of it, on Saturday afternoon, I am joined by one of my personal favorite people in the business. Really looking forward to that 2-rounder. That's going to be a fun collab. So definitely going to throw out that teaser. Give us a subscription there at 32 Beat Writers if you want to see more mock draft content from yours truly. But for today's video, this is good. This is kind of fun. I've never done this. I almost always come into these mock drafts, especially when, I was like full-time, quote unquote full-time, focused in on this channel. I would always have, a thesis or something that I was trying to get at. Today, I said, hey, it's been a while since I posted on my personal channel. Let's see what we can do here. So I'm kind of going by the seat of my pants. I'm flying off the cuff here. But I'm going to have the Giants kick us off with a trade up to number 1 overall, and I'm going to have them start the draft by taking Cam Ward. So I think that's kind of where the draft goes. I think Cam Ward's going to be the number 1 overall pick, whether it's Tennessee or the Giants. It's going to be one of those two. I think the leash is a little bit longer for Tennessee, though. So I'm going to say the Giants make the move to go up. And it might cost more than just a 3 this year, and a 3 next year. Might cost more, but, Joe Shane and Brian Dable have kind of been backed into a corner by John Mara. So I feel like the quarterback upgrade is necessary. That then takes us to Cleveland here at 2, man. And, you get Myles Garrett back, and on that extension, you still could go Abdul Carter. That could be a nasty 1-2 punch. But, I haven't done this yet in a mock, so let's have some fun here. I have yet, it's just insane because like I said, I've yet to do this, but of all drafts, to have quarterbacks go 1-2, with all this rhetoric about how it's just not a great quarterback class, need wins overall. The Giants are desperate, and, the Browns, when you look at how much of their cap is going to Deshaun Watson and Myles Garrett, one of those players certainly deserving of it. It's just hard with how they're going to have to build the rest of that roster. And, with the Achilles injury, they might have a way of being able to get out of that Deshaun Watson contract a little early. They also did just restructure it, though. So they're making it harder on themselves. They're freeing up some cap space. And I think long-term, honestly, like a rookie contract quarterback might be the only way out of it. So I'm going to cave. I'm going to have quarterbacks go 1 and 2 here. It's, again, not the quarterback class where you would think that's possible, but like I said a minute ago, need trumps it all. Then we get to the Tennessee Titans, and this is like a win of all wins. You just cut Harold Landry. You only had 2 top 100 picks. Now you got a 3rd with the 65th overall pick coming from the Giants in this trade. You got an extra 3rd rounder next year as ammunition to potentially move up the board if you need it. It just doesn't get better than this, and they get my number 2 overall player off my big board. And I'll apologize specifically to Luke. I know Luke is really tired of seeing Travis Hunter and my mocks to the New England Patriots, but that's just going to be what it is today. I know they brought in Carlton Davis, so here, I think of Travis Hunter as a full-time corner, 15 to 20 snaps a week on offense, playing receiver. But if he goes to New England, I'd almost just drop the corner thing, at least for a year or so, until, corner is a pressing need for them, or if injuries arise this year. Maybe that's, you could pivot to him then playing on the defensive side. But right now, they just need an alpha receiver, and, he's kind of my receiver 1B this year. I still like Ted McMillan a ton, but, if you're looking for a wide receiver here and a difference maker, I don't blame you if you have Travis Hunter as the best guy available. I just think Ted McMillan is, a really special prospect in his own right. So I'm going to go with Travis Hunter. Let's say we play him at receiver, and let's hope everything else kind of falls into the right place. Perfect world, Travis Hunter becomes your number 1. You sign Cooper Kupp. He kind of plays that slot role. Think about Drake May at North Carolina, how much he leaned on Josh Downs. I think a reliable slot would go a long way for New England as well. Could also go Mason Graham here. I don't hate that, but with Milt Williams coming in, I thought about doing it even with Hunter here, going Mason Graham, but with Milt Williams, that kind of took that out of the equation for me personally. So Travis Hunter, and this is one of the few spots where I'm saying, hey, let's play him at receiver full time. Speaking of Mason Graham, pretty chalky start here, but Graham going to be the pick here to the Jags. They could definitely use an upgrade there on the interior defensive line. And I think partnering him up with, a defensive line that features Eric Armstead, Josh Hine, Trayvon Walker, that's good for everyone. High tide raises all ships, and I think that pass rush will get exponentially better with a guy like Mason Graham. It also shores up that run defense, which will go a long way, too. To the Raiders, again, going chalky here. Ashton Jeanty, he's either going 6 or 10 right now, and certainly not past 12. I still don't think, Dallas will let it by. Dallas has other needs that are more pressing, so in a perfect world, really, if he's off the board, that kind of frees up your other decisions. But Could also go Marion Hampton there, and that wouldn't shock me either. But I'm going to have Jeanty go to the Raiders here. Will Johnson certainly in consideration, but I got a higher grade on Jeanty as a prospect. He's one of my 4 blue chippers, so I'm going to trust my board. I'm going to go with Ashton Jeanty here. Him plus Geno Smith, and then hopefully, some second round. We don't know where I'm going to go yet, but probably going to go corner here for the Raiders. And I think that could ultimately be the line to walk. Then we get to the Jets here at 7. Now this is where the fun begins. I'm going to go Tetairoa McMillan here. He's the perfect complement for Garrett Wilson. And a big body target like that, I think, also helps Justin Fields, who at times can be very accurate. And at times, I think he sees the field okay. It's just like the pulling the trigger of it, I think, is still where he needs to grow. But I'm a Steelers fan, and I wanted Justin Fields back. So I'm, kind of speaking to this personally. But I do think Aaron Glenn's the right coach for him in a lot of ways. Like, if there was going to be a place where he could go to regain the confidence I think he lost in Chicago, and again, that's kind of where, like, the pulling the trigger, making the throw, being decisive, I think has kind of wavered since he left Ohio State. And I think a lot of it's just the attention and pressure put on him by the Bears those first 2 years. And I just don't think he's really gotten it back. He did some nice things for the Steelers last year, but still you could see the hesitation to throw the deep ball, hit that, dagger across the middle. There's still some throws where he's a little iffy about doing it. I think Aaron Glenn's going to install some confidence in Justin Fields that we just haven't seen in him as a pro. So I'm pretty optimistic about what he could look like as a Jet. It is only a 2-year contract, so you're not stuck, if it doesn't work out. And whether it's Fields or someone else down the line, like you draft a guy in 2026 or 2027, Ted McMillan and Garrett Wilson, that's an awesome tandem for that offense to be working with. So love that a ton. We get to the Carolina Panthers. I've tried to go in a few different directions with this pick. I'm going to go Jalen Walker. I think they could just use some additional reinforcements on the edge. They bring in Tershawn Wharton. That's an okay interior defensive player for a lot of money, albeit. But he's a solid player. And, Jero Evero, base 3-4, even though, nickel's the new base. I've been saying that on this channel for years now. But Jalen Walker, I think, Jero Evero is a really sharp defensive mind. That's a guy I can trust to get the most out of Jalen Walker. Utilize him in sim pressures. Play him off ball when you do that. Send him as a blitzer. Drop him into coverage. Line him up on both sides of line of scrimmage. Have him rush from both sides. Right now, as a pass rusher, he wins mostly by being an athlete and out-athleting people, but the fact that he wins with that gives me hope. Kind of like James Pierce Jr. He's already winning with just being a better athlete than people. With the right coaching, I think he could be an even more dangerous weapon. Part of me kind of wants him to go to San Francisco, work with Chris Karusik because of that, just because he's one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL. So we'd love to see him get his hands on Jalen Walker, and Trey Greenlaw's gone, so maybe that could work. But here I think Jero Evero gets his hands on what I've been calling an agent of chaos. And I think you just move Jalen Walker around, maximize him and his versatility that way. And you're just going to always keep offenses guessing, right? If a quarterback's got 2.5 seconds to make a decision, I want to force him to take 0.2 of a second to find Jalen Walker, and is he rushing or is he dropping? I want him to allocate that time solely to Jalen Walker, because then he's that much further behind on everything else. New Orleans Saints. Ooh. Yeah, this is... I'm going to go Tyler Warren here. They could just use one more weapon, especially a guy who can work underneath in the intermediate parts of the field. Olave, Shaheed, they're deep threats. Also, Kellen Moore, I don't know if there's necessarily been a tight end he's totally maximized and really gone, all in on within an offense, but I don't think any of his offenses have really had a Tyler Warren type of threat either. I also think, that's an offense where, red zone really to me is about separation. Can you get open? Can you get an open window throw against your defender? Size does play a factor, though, and, Shaheed, you can get gadgety with him and utilize him, as a red zone guy, but Olave, he's a solid separator, but still on the smaller side. I think Warren gives them, instantly, probably their best red zone target on day 1, too. Some additional reason to fall in love with that pick. Get to the Chicago Bears, man. I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm going to have Will Campbell not be the first offensive lineman off the board here, which is a little surprising just for me personally. But, I want to do something a little different here, and I'm going to go with, Armand Membu, to me, really probably should be the first offensive lineman off the board. But, they've already patched up their interior. To me, if you're the Bears, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go Shamar Stewart here. Yeah, I'm going to go Shamar Stewart. I just think this is a Dennis Allen type of guy. And they've done enough work on that offensive line to where I think they can get by. Yeah, I know they added Deo Odedengbo and they added Grady Jarrett, but I think Shamar Stewart is a different type of guy than both of those dudes. And Odedengbo is still probably a rotational guy to me, making good money doing it. But I think he's definitely a rotational piece. And Shamar Stewart, you get some flexibility. You can line him up inside on passing downs, 3rd and longs, things like that, but also play him out on the edge on run downs. I think him and Shamar Stewart actually form a really awesome run defense tandem there. So, early in games, figure to see a whole lot of those two kind of holding the point on the edge. And then, hopefully start winning some games if you're the Bears and, you You can tap into the guy who led A&M in pressures last year. Just needs to turn more of those pressures into sacks. That's really the only knock I got on Shamar Stewart. So want to do something a little different there. I thought about left tackle. I really thought about going Josh Simmons there, just for the sake of doing something a little different. But I think they've done enough work, and I think they like Braxton Jones more than maybe I do. So I'm going to roll with Shamar Stewart again. Dennis Allen, the Saints, they liked their toolsy tradesy guys. I know that's ultimately Mickey Loomis making the pick, but maybe Dennis Allen's, fighting for a guy like Shamar Stewart there in that war room. Then we get to the 49ers. Here I'm going to go Will Campbell. I'm feeling good about this. Aaron Banks leaves. I would just plug Will Campbell in there at left guard. It's like a first percentile wingspan for Will Campbell if we're talking about him as a tackle. So I think he's going to fall in my guard rankings, which sucks. But, San Francisco could also just buy themselves some time and figure it out and work with him, in practice and figure out, hey, could this guy be our Trent Williams successor? Because if he can, then perfect. You're just going to play him at guard, and then you're going to have everyone in the league bamboozled when Williams retires and you slide him over. I think he's certainly a good enough player. He also tested awesomely, so I think he is a good fit for this wide zone Shanahan scheme. I think he checks the box there. It's just going to come down to, is he going to be a career left guard? Or is he going to have the potential to move over to play left tackle and replace Trent Williams down the line? Will Campbell would have been like a sprint the pick type of situation here for me. For the Dallas Cowboys, have him replace Zach Martin. It just truly does not get a whole lot better than that. So what do we want to do with the Dallas Cowboys here? Ahmad Membu is a really fun player, and Terrence Steele is not a fun player. You could also play Membu at guard, so maybe they ride with Terrence Steele for another year at right tackle, eventually look for a successor. To me, Membu's a tackle. There's no reason for him to move inside to guard when he just showcased awesome year of tape at Missouri, playing off the tackle. And the arm length, a little short, but movement skills make up for that. He's got awesome pound-for-pound strength, and he's got just long enough arms. He clears the 33-inch mark. He's 33 and a quarter. So I'd play him a tackle, and maybe you move Terrence Steele inside. But either way, Membu at guard for a little bit, maybe moving a tackle down, in a few years, or you move Terrence Steele inside. I'm cool with it either way there for the Dallas Cowboys. Then we get to the Miami Dolphins. This is another spot where, interior offensive line would certainly be nice to get. Javon Holland gone too, though. Could they go with a playmaking safety here? I'm truly just not there with Nicky Manwari, so I'm going to still go with Malachi Starks. That trio with the top free safety, Anthony Weaver coming from Baltimore, right? And, when Mike McDonald was there and Marcus Williams specifically was playing good ball, like he was a big part of that defense. So that true over-the-top free safety, I do wonder if Anthony Weaver's, itching to try to get that guy. Overall, their safety play needs an overhaul, other than Javon Holland, because the other guys were not good. Like Jordan Poyer he's washed at this point, unfortunately. As someone who's watched him his whole career, I don't take any joy in saying that, but age just caught up to him. So with Holland gone now, they got to overhaul that safety room. Malachi Starks, really good football player. Maybe a bit of a down year here at Georgia, but on-field testing was great at the combine too, and I think that helps rebuild his stock a little bit. Indianapolis Colts. So, man, they bring in a corner and in Charvarius Ford. They bring in a safety as well. Could you just go Colston Loveland here? I think I am, honestly. This would be as high as I've had Loveland come off the board since, September, October. But I'm going to go with Loveland. I'm going to say 2 tight ends off the board by 14. I mean, I think these are 2 very special tight ends. I have a higher grade on Warren. He's not quite Bowers territory, but he's not far off. But Loveland's the guy who plays more like a Brock Bowers. So, but I also think, 6'6" was a good height for him to come in. And that was the official listing at the Combine. So I think there's reason to believe he can add a little bit to his frame and play in line. And think about, the years of Mo Alley Cox making big plays and being their red zone weapon. Like, Colston Loveland's just an upgraded version. Not really the same player because there's just way more skill and nuance and route running ability in Colston Loveland's game. But think about how Indianapolis has made do with tight ends of that ilk, and now throw in a guy who's a true separator, can work the middle of the field, sure hands, and then there's room for upside of him growing into that frame and being a better blocker at the next level. So hard for me to kind of pass on that here. Jahdae Barron's very fun too, though, and I would just play him in the nickel and let him be Lou Anarumo's new slot guy. But instead, I'm going to have Jahdae Barron come off the board here to the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to be that partner to A.J. Terrell. I think, Raheem Morris, lots of cover 3, cover 4. Jahdae Barron's going to feast in that. And again, sub 30-inch arms, that might make him a nickel only. I value the nickel spot more than anybody. You're going to hear, I think it's going to be the cornerstone of an NFL defense within about 5 years' time. So if he plays there long-term, that's totally fine. But there's also a lot of off-zone coverage in that Raheem Morris defense. So I think he'd be totally fine. Don't panic, Falcons fans. Don't worry. I will get you an edge rusher in the second round. I already got one in mind that I think would be perfect for y'all. All right, Arizona Cardinals. Where do we want to go here? Edge is definitely something that's interesting to me. They actually added a little bit to the edge group with Josh Sweat coming over. So I'm kind of 2 minds. Walter Nolan's my IDL 2, but Kenneth Grant feels like the guy they might favor. So I'm going to go with Grant here. It's one that I've been mocking for what feels like forever. I think Walter Nolan can play some nose tackle, but at 305 pounds, you just feel a whole lot better about Kenneth Grant doing it at 330-something, 340. So I think Kenneth Grant, you're getting a true nose tackle and, an athletic guy that could potentially play some 3-tech for you. But I think you're getting an NFL-ready run defender, and then, we'll see how high the ceiling goes with how much consistency you can get at him as a pass rusher. If you just watch the Ohio State game, this guy, would be a top 10 pick in your eyes. But there's plenty of weeks where, the pass rush kind of just, it's not there. So is he Vita Vea, or is he more than that at the next level? That's going to be the question mark for Kenneth Grant. But either way, even if he's just Vita Vea and he's just that run defender, that adds a ton of value to, I think, the middle of that Cardinals defensive line. Cincinnati Bengals, they're shopping Trey Hendrickson. Sam Hubbard just retired. This has got to be an edge rusher for me. And I'm going to go with, I have James Pierce Jr. ranked a little bit higher. And Mike Green with the off-the-field stuff, I'm kind of wondering what the slide might be for him potentially. So I'm going to go with James Pierce Jr. This is just a guy, 23% pass rush win rate, and I don't really think he has any hard and set, tried and true moves. He's just an awesome athlete with a great first step and really unbelievable natural bend. So he's winning off that, and then if you can coach him up from a move standpoint, then you're talking about a guy who could easily, I'd say this with full confidence, could easily become a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. It's going to take some time, it's going to take some work, and where I have some concern is Joseph Osai never really figured it out. They're only going into year 3 of Miles Murphy, and he was injured the first year, so he's still kind of being worked on, but that was a molded ball of clay that we haven't really seen hit yet, so they haven't had a great track record of developing these guys, but I also think James Pierce Jr. is just a different breed of those guys. Miles Murphy had tools and traits, but he didn't have the pass rush profile and the just sheer amount of wins that someone like a James Pierce Jr. has. So with Henderson probably out the door, and I would assume going to the Washington Commanders probably for a second-round pick. Maybe we'll even do that here in the video to get the Bengals another second-round pick in this episode. I totally think that's going to end up happening. So edge is a huge need there for the Bengals. I'm going to have to go with James Pierce Jr. Seattle Seahawks. Man, been a fun offseason so far for them, right? Sam Darnold comes in to replace Geno Smith. And then, obviously, you're letting DK Metcalf go. You got an extra second-round pick because of that. This could definitely be a Gray Zabel spot. I also think it could be a Jahad Campbell spot. I seriously wouldn't rule that out. Edge is definitely a position I need that they could always look at as well. Oh, man. They bring in Dexter Lawrence, so I'm not too worried about edge right here. I could go Jahad Campbell. Or do we want to go Gray Zabel? What would our options be in the second round if we didn't go Zabel here? Who do we think is a zone blocking fit? Honestly, Donovan Jackson could be a good one. Marcus Bowe, I'd be fine with. Wyatt Milam, I'd be cool with. Yeah, you know what? Awesome. We'll go with Jahad Campbell here. This also forces me to do something a little different with Tampa Bay, which I have been a little reluctant to do. They have been my Jahad Campbell spot. But, yeah, I think that linebacking core can get better in Seattle. And I think they just signed a guy, actually. So, might be a little overkill, but at the same time, Dearness Jones came over mid-year and was already their best linebacker. So I think that's definitely a spot where they could look for some improvement. And I think Jahad Campbell, not only a great blitzer too, which I think would be fun to have him in the middle of that Mike McDaniel offense, right? Creative, schematic mind. Give him this, Swiss Army knife who could be a great blitzer who flies downfield against the run, but also has true coverage ability and good sideline-to-sideline speed. So I like Jahad Campbell there for that defense, and I think linebacker's definitely a spot where they could get better. And then we get to the Tampa Bay Bucks, and yeah, they bring in Hassan Reddick. I definitely think linebacker is a spot where they would like to get better. They would love to get Jahad Campbell here, but we could also address that in the second round with some guys that I think are a good fit. That being said, Hassan Reddick's a one-year deal. I'm not seeing anything there that stops you long-term from wanting to add that spot. Joe Tryon Shank at the building, so I'm going to go with Mike Green here. Off-the-field issues definitely are there, but he also spoke at the Combine about the Virginia sexual assault, so it feels like it's something he's comfortable talking about and he feels innocent. So, I'm not a lawyer, I'm no legal expert, so I'm going to stay out of that, but it feels like it's affecting his draft stock right now. But I'm going to stop the slide at 19. He's going to be higher than that on my board, but this is just that fiery pass rusher that long-term Tampa Bay is looking for. All right, Denver Broncos. Man, oh man, Will Johnson just has fallen in this mock draft, and I did not even necessarily mean for that to happen. And I don't even think I'm going to have him go here to the Denver Broncos. I think Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga was a really good ad for them. I was going to do Nicky Manwari here, actually. That would have been my initial guess, but man, also some of these offensive linemen are falling. What to do here for the Denver Broncos? That is a good question. Could look at the receiver spot. I don't think they absolutely need to, and they could also be a Cooper Kupp team. What do we want to do? Corner, you could go. I thought Riley Moss had some good play. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do Luther Burden. He's the yak guy I don't think that offense has, too. So I don't think he's redundant with anybody that they have on that roster. So I know they brought in Evan Ingram, and, that's the Joker, quote-unquote. This also could be an Amarian Hampton spot. Don't hate that either. But that being said, I'm going to have Luther Burden be that yak guy I just don't think they have on the roster. Pittsburgh Steelers, this is a sprint the card, and I know they got Darius Slay there, but if Will Johnson falls to you, you just don't think twice about it. I was going to go interior defensive line, but if Will Johnson falls in your lap, don't think twice about it. We'll go IDL. Actually, we won't get another pick with the Pittsburgh Steelers today, so that's unfortunate. I was thinking Derek Harmon there or Walter Nolan. Nolan probably would have been the pick there, but if Will Johnson keeps falling like he did in this mock, why wouldn't you? Darius Slay is just a one-year deal. JPJ's also comes with a lot of variance too. He gets pretty handsy, so I think one more guy in that room would be far from a bad thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And also, if any of those guys have to play nickel, then so be it. That's definitely a spot where they can get better. All right, then we get to the Los Angeles Chargers. Najee Harris kind of puts a little bit of the thorn in the side of my potential Amarian Hampton fit here. You still could do that. Honestly, I think I'm going to go with Emeka Egbuka here. Give them one more wide receiver who can get consistently open. I know they brought back Mike Williams too. Could also look to the edge group or interior defensive line. Could this be an IDL spot for them? This could be a good Walter Nolan spot. Chargers fans, let me know what you think about Walter Nolan. I do think that interior defensive line could get better, and I think Nolan is a run defender too. It helps out that unit exponentially, but he's also a lightning quick player and has very fast hands too, and he's an impact player as a pass rusher as well. Former 5-star recruit and actually the number 1 recruit overall coming out of high school ahead of Travis Hunter. So I'm going to go with Walter Nolan there in the Los Angeles Chargers. Green Bay Packers. Let's do a little something different here. I normally go corner here. We've had these offensive linemen just falling. So Josh Simmons, Calvin Banks, what do I want to do here? I'll stick to my rankings right now. I have Banks just ahead of Simmons. Simmons' tape is great, but it comes against pretty poor competition, and I'm just not ready to give up on Calvin Banks Jr. either. And also, Green Bay likes guys who are Swiss Army knives, can play inside, so guard tackle flexibility here for Kelvin Banks, but let's just say, hey, Rasheed Walker, you're good for a 7th rounder. I say this all the time about Braxton Jones, the left tackle for the Chicago Bears. If I had to say you're good for blank round pick, are you really that good? If I have to say the second half of that sentence, then I don't know if I'm fully bought in. So Kelvin Banks Jr. is an upgrade over Rasheed Walker. I think that could be really fun. I do think tackle is certainly in play here for Green Bay, and just for the sake of not going corner for the 1,000th time, let's do something a little different here. Minnesota Vikings, if we're completely honest, this is a great trade down spot. But you know what? If they're going to have him fall here, I know they brought back Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones is getting up there in age. I'd go Marion Hampton. He's a zone and gap scheme fit. You could also look at the corners here. Could still go Gray Zabel, but with Will Fries and Ryan Kelly coming in, I want to see an impact run game, behind those guys. So I think Marion Hampton, that could be the dude to partner up with Aaron Jones, who's also battled some injuries. So and also we live in a day and age where it's not just one running back in the backfield. And now you're talking about, hey, Aaron Jones coming off a this sounds insane, career high 1,156 rushing yards last year. Now you get to throw Amarian Hampton in that mix. Yeah, how could you not be excited about that? All right, Houston Texans, they have failed to address the offensive line. It's got to be Josh Simmons or Gray Zabel here. It just comes down to, the tackles right now, I guess, are Titus Howard and Blake Fisher. And I'm a Notre Dame fan, but Blake Fisher wasn't great last year, and Titus Howard, now we're talking about him flipping from the right side to the left side, which he did last year to play guard, but now we're talking about him doing it at a tackle. I don't know, man. I feel like I'm gonna have to go Josh Simmons here. You trade Laramie Tunsil, you gotta replace that position. I'd love for it to be Gray Zabel. Just because I think that's kind of like the interior offensive lineman, I would have loved to see with Bobby Slowick, but also, Nick Casey. Nick Casey. I think he would fit for that too, but more gap scheme oriented there. So maybe Simmons isn't the perfect fit because I do think he's better off in a zone blocking scheme. But out of those two, I feel a little bit better about. If it's going to be a gap scheme, I feel a little bit better about Simmons being the fit. All right, Los Angeles Rams. I feel like you almost got to go corner here. Just a position they have yet to address yet this offseason, really. Marie Thomas, I just don't know if Azaria is really a fit for that scheme. Darian Porter. Siobhan Ravel's a very fun multiple ball clay. I also really like Trey Amos. Man, oh man. But they also did just give up Jonah Jackson. I think Gray Zabel should go somewhere here in the first round. So I'm going to go with Zabel. I also think Bo Limmer, is he really that great of a center? So you could probably move on from Bo Limmer if push comes to shove. But Jonah Jackson replacement to center replacement, and again, more gap scheme oriented. So everything I just said about Zabel with Houston, if you have some concerns there, I understand. But I think he's got enough grip strength to fit just fine. I do prefer him in a zone scheme, but I also think 311 pounds of the combine, the grip strength he's got, I think he's in a good spot to be able to play in a gap scheme as well. All right, Baltimore Ravens. Really like the DeAndre Hopkins move. I think that's a very good ad. I almost wonder, do you go corner here and keep Marlon Humphrey in the nickel, or do you go safety? Like, this would have been a great Malachi Stark spot, right? Like, and then move Kyle Hamilton back into the nickel. Questions. What do I want to do here? Zari Thomas could be an interesting guy to throw into that. Or to go Siobhan Ravel or Trey Amos. Could also look to edge. Donovan Ezeraku is kind of their guy, right? Like, that's a dude they would definitely have a crush on. I'm going to go Donovan Ezeraku. I feel like that's a Ravens type of pass rusher. Kind of gives me Elvis Dumerville vibes. He's a little taller than Elvis Dumerville, but like longer arms than he is tall, and just wins with leverage because of that. But also Ezeraku, speed, bend is there. So a guy coming off 16.5 sacks. I mean, a lot of tools in the bag there for him to do that and be ACC Defensive Player of the Year. So big fan of Donovan Ezeraku. Also looked really good at the Senior Bowl this year. So big fan of his game. I could definitely see where he's like a Ravens type of edge rusher. All right, Detroit Lions. Interior offensive line, I definitely think is something that could be in play here. Edge rushers, yeah, they're still looking at edge because it's like they haven't added anybody yet. Michael Williams or Nick Scorton. That's what it'll come down to here. I'm going to stick with my rankings. I'm going to go Michael Williams. I just think we just need to see him outside the tackle more, Good athlete, but Georgia said coming into this year, hey, we're going to play him outside the tackle. He's going to get to play some stand-up rusher, pin his ears back, get after the quarterback. But we really didn't get to see that. So I think everything else is great, right? Like playing with his hand in the dirt. He's good against the run. He's certainly got freakishly long arms, good power in his frame. It's just, can this guy be a reliable, consistent pass rush winner? But I also think his run defense is a big add to this. DJ Reader battling injuries. And I can go of Zadarius Smith, Aiden Hutchinson, shorter arms than you would like. So I also think his run defense reinforcements here are a solid add to that defensive line. But you bring back Marcus Davenport too. So you don't have to force Michael Williams to be week one your best pass rusher either. So I think you can kind of ease him into that rotation, at least in the early goings. Washington Commanders, they land Laramie Tunsil in that big trade, man. You bring back Noah Brown. Dude, do we go receiver here? Is Emeka Egbuka the play? Kind of feel like Emeka Egbuka is the play. Could also go Nick Scorton. Scorton would be a hot ad for that defensive line, no doubt. But I'm going to go Emeka Egbuka. One more consistent playmaker for that offense. I think they're going all in on Jaden Daniels right now. You go make the trade for your franchise left tackle, or at least left tackle for the next 3 years. Go get Emeka Egbuka, a guy who can play inside and out, move all around. We saw Cliff Kingsbury make some strides there with how he used Terry McLaurin, was willing to move him around. Let's say he does the same thing here with Emeka Egbuka. And a guy that's just easy throws. Like the guy is going to get open consistently, make life easy for Jaden Daniels. Buffalo Bills. So you bring in Joey Bosa, kind of takes the wind out of the sails of potential edge pick here. I'm going to go defensive interior for sure. Derek Harmon feels like the guy to go with here. Yeah, I'm going to go Derek Harmon. I kind of like him more as, early second round, late first round guy than I feel like some dudes who, like him as like a top 15 guy. I see a lot of good in Derek Harmon. I still think he's kind of coming into his body. He lost a lot of weight going from Michigan State to Oregon. Run defense, I think, at the beginning of the year was a little iffy, but then certainly got better as the year went on. But you see him as a pass rusher and also good athletic testing, which kind of backed this up. Quick player, good power in his lower half, in a pretty wide array of moves. Again, I just see him as pretty good versus great, but that's not to say Derek Harmon can't be an impact player. And lining him up next to Ed Oliver, I think, is actually a really fun defensive interior tandem there for Buffalo. All right, Kansas City Chiefs, still no left tackle. I haven't heard anything about Cam Robinson or what's going on there, but I kind of think that's where they go. But because we don't know yet, you know what though? Can I let Matthew Golden fall out of this? 4.29 speed. Nah, Xavier Worthy denies the reports. They got Hollywood Brown back, Rashee Rice back as well. I'm going to go Josh Connerly Jr. He's definitely an ascending prospect. I think he was better last year at Oregon. Still probably stands to add 5-10 pounds of frame, but he was also voted best offensive lineman by the people he went up against at the Senior Bowl. Greg Zabel was the top overall player, so you could call him the top offensive lineman too, but Connerly there right behind him with just one bad rep, coming on the other side of the offensive line against a top 20 pick in this mock in Mike Green. So I'm still high on Josh Connerly. It's kind of weird. This tackle class, like 6 months ago didn't look good, but now it's like, there's 4 or 5 guys I certainly wouldn't hate going in the first round, and Connerly is definitely among that group. Philadelphia Eagles, man, Darius Alexander just screams like that's your Milton Williams replacement, but him, Matthew Golden, or Nick Scorton. Like, Golden would just be so fun for this team to just play him in the slot, which, I mean, he mostly played outside at Houston and Texas, but you could also play Devonta Smith in the slot, and I love that. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with... can I do it, though? Oh, this is so tough. Of the guys to fall out of the first round, it's either going to be Scorton or it's going to be Golden here. This is tricky. I do think a third receiver in that mix would be so fun. And if they do trade Dallas Goedert, there's like a little bit of a vacuum there for potential targets to be gained. Devonta Smith has long speed, though, so like, is there too much overlap between Golden and Devonta Smith? I feel like there might be. I'm going to go with... I can't have Golden get out of the first round. I just can't. I can't have Golden get out of the first round. That receiver trio is just fantastic for the reigning Super Bowl champs. How could you be upset about that? All right, Cleveland Browns, you are next up. I'm going to flip over here so you can see the previous picks. We went Shadur Sanders. Marion Hampton off the board, so I'm not going to force a running back pick here. You could also go left tackle. Left tackle is definitely the spot. I think Ariante Ursary is actually a great scheme fit for that zone blocking scheme, so I'm going to go with Ariante Ursary. Maybe a little stiff in the hips, but everything else definitely checks out for that blocking scheme. New York Giants, I feel like you got to go receiver here. I think Jaden Higgins is definitely making a push to be a potential first-round pick, maybe as high as 23 to the Packers. That could be fun. I like A.U. Manor. It just comes down to, you want the redshirt sophomore with upside who's slightly faster than Higgins, but also has battled drops, or do you want to go with Jay Higgins, who's a little bit more sure-handed, we'll say. I'm going to go Jaden Higgins. I think his combine was fantastic. I like A.U. Manor a little ahead of Jaden Higgins, but I wouldn't knock that Jaden Higgins does go ahead of him. And there's that big body X receiver type to free up league neighbors and let him move around between the Y and Z. Tennessee Titans, we've gone edge. Do we want to go corner? I definitely think that's something that could be in play. You could also look back to the interior defensive line again. Or, sorry, interior offensive line, I should say. This is a tough one here for the Tennessee Titans. Or you go like A.U. Manor. Could go A.U. Manor. That's a receiver room that could definitely use an upgrade. Right now, it's kind of Calvin Ridley and nobody else. I want to go like A.U. Manor. Let's go get them a big body X receiver, free up Calvin Ridley, because Ridley's not an X either, so let him play the Z and get him off the line of scrimmage with like A.U. Manor coming in to play the X. A.U. Manor would have been a great fit here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Couldn't make it happen, however. I think this is a good corner spot. Siobhan Ravel, Azaria Thomas. I'm going to go with Azaria Thomas. I think he's a good football player. I think he's better in man than he is in zone, so that's a bit of a work in progress, finding that right fit for him. But nevertheless, I do think he is a guy worth adding in that mix. And when push comes to shove, him and Tyson Campbell gives you a very good man coverage tandem. So, push, those money downs, push comes to shove, maybe you're just running a lot more man coverage if you're the Jags. Raiders, I'll go with Trey Amos here. I'm still a big Trey Amos guy. I think he got a lot better in zone coverage this year at Ole Miss, while still also being a very good man coverage corner. He's got the size, got the length, good testing numbers as well. Big fan of Trey Amos. All right, New England Patriots. Darius Alexander would have been interesting had they not gotten Milton Williams. Nick Scorton is an interesting name to shout out here, but I also do want to look at the offensive line options, of course. Tyler Booker. I feel like this team is kind of set on the interior. Ozzie Trapilo, but you just brought in a right tackle and Morgan Moses. Yeah, this sucks, man. Like, would have loved to get one earlier, but, I just wasn't going to take a guy at 4 that I didn't absolutely love in that spot. Ariante Ursary would have been another guy that would have been nice to bring in. I might go Booker here. I think I'm going to go Booker, because even that interior was bad last year. So I'm going to go Tyler Booker and plug him in the interior offensive line. Would love to get them a left tackle, but it just didn't play out the way I needed it to. So maybe they're a Cam Robinson team. Somebody's going to go get them, and in this mock, the Chiefs drafted one. So let's just have some fun. Let's just say the Pats have signed Cam Robinson, and they're going to plug Tyler Booker in right next to him. Chicago Bears. I'm going to go Quinshon Judkins here. Sorry, this is just too good for me to pass on. And giving Ben Johnson that bell cow back, quote unquote bell cow, that lead back in that backfield, I think would be awesome. Very, the combine testing was really good. Good speed for someone who's 221 pounds, and he just plays tough. Runs pissed off, and I don't think the leg drive's killer, but just because of how fast and athletic he can be and full head of steam he can get, Guys will bounce off of him, and then he sets you up with that killer stiff arm too. So plays with good combination of power and long speed. New Orleans Saints. This is where Darius Alexander gets off the board. I just don't see him getting past this spot. This is a versatile defensive lineman that can play inside, outside, quick hands, quick feet. Hard not to like Darius Alexander. Little old, but he's moving ready in my eyes. Chicago Bears once again. We've already gone edge. We've gone running back. You could look at the interior offensive line group again. Again, left tackle could certainly be in consideration. But I'm going to pass on that. Let's just say they're going to stick with their guns here and go with their guys. I know they brought in Grady Jarrett, but dude, TJ Sanders could be a lot of fun. Or even Tyleik Williams. Given what Grady Jarrett is at this point in his career, man, Tyleik could be a very interesting add to that defensive line. Let me get a quick look at the overall best players available. I think I'm going to go Tyleik Williams. I'm going to go Tyleik Williams for the fourth time. Get him that interior. He's just better than Gervon Dexter. He's better than Zach Pickens. And Grady Jarrett's kind of on his last legs of his NFL playing career. So Tyleik Williams, let him eat up space. Let Grady Jarrett be that pass rush specialist from the inside. How could you not? Love that if you're a Bears fan. Then we get back to the Jets. Man, this has got to be TJ Sanders, right? Like defensive interior, get a running mate there for Quinnen Williams. I would absolutely love that. Super explosive off the line of scrimmage, really good run defender, but there's some nice upside there in his pass rush profile as well. 49ers is where Nick Scorton's run comes to slide comes to an end. They need defensive line reinforcements. They could use another edge rusher. I really thought they were going to get Joey Bosa, but that did not end up happening. He goes to Buffalo. Nick Scorton, I think a guy with better 2023 tape than 24, and it'd be very interesting to see like what the rhetoric would be if you just flipped those years, right? Goes from a hand in the dirt edge rusher with not a lot of production to a stand-up guy, slims down, becomes uber productive, right? And then he shows up at the combine at 256. What would the narrative be then on Nick Scorton? Kind of a fun what-if exercise you can play with. Dallas Cowboys, I do think running back could certainly be in play here. We could also look to a receiver, who's the guy who could potentially complement CeeDee Lamb. You could go Jack Besh, sure-handed guy. Played a lot on the outside, but I kind of like him mostly as a power slot. I like Restrepo and Noah mostly out of the slot too. So, and I like Lamb as a slot player, just as a point of reference. So I'm going to pass on that. And is this Caleb Johnson? Is Caleb Johnson plus Javonte Williams the tandem I want to go with? I don't know though. Trayvon Henderson with Javonte Williams. Williams can catch it though, So. And he used to be shifty, though. That's the thing. Is like he just lost so much of that short area burst with that knee injury once he got hurt his rookie year. So, do you want the guy you can put into space, or do you want the guy between the tackles? That's a question, and it comes down to what you see Javonte Williams being nowadays. But I'm going to stick to my rankings. I got Caleb Johnson as my RB4, one spot ahead of Trayvon Henderson. You could totally flip those two picks. I'm going to hope Javonte Williams is even better, one more year further away from the injury. I also don't think Denver did a great job always keeping him in rhythm, right? Like they'd stick to X amount of carries and then you're going to rotate out. Felt like there'd be times where Javonte Williams would get going and then he'd get pulled out as he was getting, becoming the hot hand. So, maybe Dallas can kind of play that differently. And I think him plus Caleb Johnson, that's a solid 1-2 punch there in the backfield there for Dallas. Indianapolis Colts. I think you could still look at corner here, even with the upgrades they've made on that side. Dayo Odeyingbo being gone. Kwity Paye isn't anything special. Still waiting to see. First round pick last year. Latu turn a corner. Do you go Ben Morrison? Do you go with the upside play here? Because you don't need it to work. Because you got enough contingencies there built in, but you could also go get one of the better man coverage corners, one of the better corners, point blank simple in this class. I feel like the Colts are in a spot to where they could take that. They could take a risk on that. It won't kill them because they have guys there, but if it works out, that's a substantial upgrade to that secondary. So I'm going to go with Benjamin Morrison there. And then we get back to our Atlanta Falcons here, and this is where, like I promised you, I got a guy in mind, Braden Swinson. I think Jahdae Barron plus Braden Swinson would be a fantastic 1-2 haul, there for the Falcons in the first 2 rounds. Swinson, long arms, explosive first step, great closing speed. Like that is a finisher that the Falcons just do not have. They have a lot of tweeners, guys they drafted in the mid rounds last year. Swinson's the finisher to add to that defensive line. I love that fit. All right, we get to the Cardinals here. We already got defensive line. Jack Bech is an interesting name to throw out there, but I'm going to pass. Nicky Manwari's still here too. I got to get him off the board. He's going to go earlier than what I have in these mocks, and that's what kills me. Like I see a second rounder on tape. I'll be honest with you, but with the athletic testing, he's going to come off the board sooner rather than later. I don't know if the Cardinals are the spot, though, so that's the tricky spot. I hate that this happens in every one of my mocks, but I'm going to go Donovan Jackson. They just brought in Ohio State's offensive line coach to be the Cardinals' offensive line coach. So there's automatic chemistry kind of built in there with Donovan Jackson. So that's going to be the pick for me. I have him slot in there at left guard where I definitely think they can get better. All right, to the Miami Dolphins. What did we do last time? Malachi Starks. Yeah, they still got to go interior offensive line. They can get better there on the interior. So who would that guy be? Marcus Bowe or Jonas Avanaia? Or Wyatt Milum? I think I would probably lean Avanaia. I see Bowe as a center more than a guard, and they already have Lloyd Cushenberry there. No, they don't have Lloyd Cushenberry. They have Aaron Brewer there, former Tennessee Titan. They're going to play center. You bring in James Daniels, who played both guard spots. Let's say James Daniels plays left guard. Jonas Avanaia, I think, would be an absolute stud there at right guard. Great scheme fit there. I actually like that a lot. All right, to the Cincinnati Bengals here at 49. We've already gone James Pierce Jr. We've gotten some edge rush help. You could definitely look towards the interior defensive line and just overhaul that unit as a whole. Do we have a run defender here we really like? Ooh, Alfred Collins. Could also go more Norman Lott and just run with the Volunteers defensive line there in Cincy. I think they're going to keep, obviously they're going to keep T. They're going to franchise him, and then I think they're going to work out that extension. So, honestly, I think they need another run defender to help out Chris Jenkins there. I know they just drafted him in the second round last year, but sometimes it takes two to tango, and I think Collins plus Chris Jenkins, that's a stout middle of the defense, and that's what frees up a guy like James Pierce Jr. who holds up against the run, but at the next level, I don't think it's going to be the same that it was at Tennessee. So, I think that interior defensive line tandem plus James Pierce Jr. There we go. We're addressing that defense in a big way. Could have also gone safety there. That's another team that could definitely use some upgrades. Same can be said about the Seahawks here. Damn, am I going to just give them the all-alien draft here? I think I am. I got to get Nicky Manwari off the board here, and I think he could just be that slot, like Kyle Hamilton plus insane athletic testing for Mike McDonald, who was obviously the defensive coordinator for the Ravens when they had Kyle Hamilton first get there. So, could be an interesting scheme fit. Could happen in the first round, but somehow I managed to make it happen in the second round, which Eman Warrior, if we're being honest, if I'm predicting what's going to happen in April, he probably goes higher than that. But again, on tape, I see a second round guy, but he is a freak athlete, so he's going to go sooner rather than later. Denver Broncos. Again, with Dre Greenlaw coming in there, I'm not too pressed about what they could potentially do there. They also bring in Talanoa Hufanga, who I think was a good add. Otherwise, Nicky Manwari would definitely be someone I'm looking at here. Luther Burden Jr. to be that yak weapon. You could still look at a tight end here and have him sit for a year behind Evan Ingram, or not be someone you're forced to play. I don't want to force that though. I feel like if I do that, I'm going to piss off a lot of Broncos fans. You know what? The Broncos actually have a ton of guys as pending free agents, not this year but next year. So who's a guy here we could plug in to be a fit into that? And they also have a lot of these converted linebackers to edge rushers, or at least they did with Baron Browning. They got rid of him. Benito, not the biggest guy. We could use an early down run defender. I'm going to go with Landon Jackson. Landon Jackson's a good football player, really good athletic testing too, stout run defender, but there's tools and traits there to believe that there's reason for him to grow as a pass rusher. And I think it gets so much easier when he's already a good run defender, right? It's easy to get him on the field right now because he's going to stop the run. That buys you some time to be able to grow as a pass rusher. All right, let's go back to the Seattle. Yeah, Wyatt Milum. That feels like a Clint Kubiak fit. I'm gonna go Wyatt Milum. I know they've done some work on that. Actually, no, I think they failed to address the interior offensive line. That's what I've been seeing from Seahawks fans, right? They made all these moves and yet to address offensive line. So there you go. There's your interior offensive line upgrade that they desperately need. Wyatt Milum on the left side. You play Christian Haynes, who I liked more than a third-round pick, certainly. You play him at right guard, and we hold out hope for Ola Oluwatimi, a guy that I liked a lot, sixth-rounder who wasn't bad last year as a first-time starter. So there's reason to believe that he'll get better and better going into year two. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like I said, I think this team wants to get better at linebacker. They definitely should address it. I'm going to go Carson Schwessinger. Levante David can only sign so many one-year, $10 million deals at the end of his career. Schwessinger, love his change of direction skills, flies downfield. He's a heat-seeking missile to the football while also being good enough in coverage. And came to the combine at a good weight, 240 pounds. UCLA had him listed at 225. So if he's in the 240s, you're talking about a guy who could play each and every down, which would be huge. Green Bay Packers. What do you want to do here? Josh Myers just left. So I kind of feel like you got to go Marcus Bowe here. This team's just got to get better at center. And Myers for the longest time has been that weak link. So I'm going to go with Marcus Bowe here. Plug him in to play that center spot. 2 picks on the offensive line. Sorry, Packers fans. I know it's not super sexy, and corner is definitely a position I need. But also I'm kind of opting out. You might be able to get Marcus Bowe in the third round. But he might also go in the second. I wouldn't hate that, or I wouldn't doubt it. But Jeff Hafley, traditionally a man-heavy guy, but last year played a lot more zone. And I don't know if that's because Jai Alexander was there, and that's just the way the cards played out, or if that's how he wants to play at the next level. So I'm also kind of passing on corner for that reason, just so you know. Back to the Los Angeles Chargers. We went defensive interior. I still think you could go running back here, but I'm gonna look to the receiver spot here because they could definitely use a playmaker. Could also look tight end. Maybe tight end's my route here. Maybe tight end's the play here. Mason Taylor, legacy guy, going to Jim Harbaugh. I could totally see that. And that's a huge upgrade there from a pass catcher standpoint of the tight end position. So getting some reinforcement. Still need to add at the receiver spot, but a bunch of slot guys. And Ladd McConkey plays on the outside. So him and Besh could certainly be in play. But Besh versus Taylor, I think I just give me Mason Taylor by ever so slightly. Buffalo Bills. God, we're winding down here. We're at pick 56. We've gone interior defensive line. Could this be your Jack Besh spot? I think we're okay. Josh Palmer now in Buffalo. Linebacker's definitely a spot. I'm going to go Demetrius Knight. I think linebacker is definitely a position where they can continue to add and get better. Matt Milano battled a lot of injuries, getting up there in age. And then they've had that depth tested. So I think adding in a Demetrius Knight, another guy that looked pretty good flying around the field at the Senior Bowl, I think that would be worthwhile. Then we get back to the Carolina Panthers. Spending a lot of money on J.C. Horn makes me think, all right, yeah, it'd be good to get another corner into that mix. Just going to come down to, do we want it to be Shavon Ravel, Maxwell Hairston, Darian Porter? All right, I think I'm coming to a decision. I think I'm going to go with, man, I kind of like Darian Porter the best of this bunch, but Shavon Ravel is kind of hard for me to quit. Toolsy, traitsy guy. Could be killer in zone coverage. I'm going to go with Hairston, though. I just think with his ball skills, click and close ability, and that zone-heavy defense, that could totally play. Plus, with just his natural speed, right? You got J.C. Horn to be the lockdown guy. Maxwell Hairston could be that chance taker for you, right? Like 4.28 speed, let him time it up, try to jump a route, and turn it into 6. So he could be your gambler while J.C. Horn's your kind of shutdown guy on the other side. Back to the Houston Texans. And honestly, I think you kind of have to double up on offensive line at this point. I'd love to see them go interior defensive line. And frankly, actually, what's the better value here? That's what it's going to come down to. Who's the better crop of players? Yeah, you could go Tate Ratledge in the third, and I'd be fired up for that. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like you gotta go interior defensive line. That's a spot where they have long needed to get better. Shamar Turner, toolsy, traitsy guy, but I don't love him quite as much as others do. Norman Lott, work in progress, good pass rusher, but I don't know if I'm fully there yet. Dang, actually, you know what? I don't know where the value is at. Yeah, with the Houston Texans, man, that's a tricky one. It might have to be Turner. It just might have to be Turner, man. I don't know. I get Norman Lott ranked higher. I might have to go more Norman Lott. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Norman Lott. He's not the highest. You know what? Actually, I'll go Jack Besh. Sorry, Texans fans. I'm throwing you all around. I do think they can use one more receiver. Diggs is almost certainly gone, and no guarantee of what Tank Dell is going to be after a second major knee injury. He was also shot within the last 12 months. So I'm going to go Jack Besh, inside-out flexibility. And honestly, both those positions, I think, help. Nico Collins going to play your X, move Jack Besh around. Sudden enough to get open on routes, but very sure-handed. That's the big calling card there for Jack Besh. Just solid, reliable, dependable guy. Back to the Baltimore Ravens. Already gone edge. And with adding DeAndre Hopkins, you could still add receiver. It's a one-year deal. You don't have to, sweat it. If there's a guy you really like here, but there's just not a outside, big-body dude that I love at this position. Could also look to the offensive line. Definitely some injury concerns in the past for Ronnie Stanley. Corner's also definitely in play. Could it be Darian Porter or Shavon Ravel? I'm going to go Shavon Ravel, and then we'll just keep Marlon Humphrey in the slot. I think that's ultimately the move there for the Baltimore Ravens, and we'll just keep Darius Washington and Kyle Hamilton playing true safety spots. I'd rather Hamilton play the nickel just because with his size, length, run defense, he's more impactful there. But ultimately, I think I'm going to go with the route I decided to go. You could also go safety Kevin Winston Jr. there. I don't hate that whatsoever. Detroit Lions back on the clock. We've gone edge. I would like to go interior offensive line for this team just to kind of future-proof that position. Tate Ratledge is kind of their guy, but again, kind of more of a third-round dude for me. Trapilo, Cameron Williams. Yeah, I'm not gonna reach too much here. Ratledge maybe. You know what else this team could do? They might do what they did last year at corner and just do it at edge. I'm going to go with Jack Sawyer here. I think that's going to be my play. Sawyer or Uman Mielen. I'm going to go with Sawyer. Just a lunch pail guy. And kind of like last year with corner, it's like, hey, we're going to draft two of these guys. We are not going to get thin at corner. I can see where they're like, we didn't make it to the Super Bowl last year because we ran out of edge guys. We will not. And also, we're talking about, an NFC team that just watched the Philadelphia Eagles with what felt like a seemingly endless rotation of guys that could just sub in, sub out, and make plays. Nolan Smith with the career game. Moro Jomo's out there making plays. I don't feel like most people who watch football on Sundays know who Moro Jomo is. I was a big fan of his coming out of the draft. Small victory lap there. But, I could totally see where the Lions are like, yep, it's our turn. Send him in. Keep him going. Deep rotation. So maybe they do double up at edge between the first and second round. Not likely, but I did want to explore it here. Washington Commanders. This is another team that, edge is something they should just heavily consider here. Heavily consider. Corners also in play. Corner or edge. Yeah, it comes down to literally Uman Mielen, Tua Molowal, or Darian Porter. Jordan Birch too. Like I wouldn't rule him out. I'm gonna say they go corner, Darian Porter. I think he'd be a really fun ad opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. Lattimore's that shutdown guy. I let Darian Porter kind of learn and grow at the position. 1 year full-time starting, but just great instincts and natural ball skills. So, I'm going to go Darian Porter there. Also, great frame, too. Gives you a couple of big guys there on the outside. Buffalo Bills. I'm going to go back to the secondary here, and, I kind of mentioned it briefly for a second. Let me just double-check. I do like Xavier Watts, don't get me wrong. But I'm going to go with Kevin Winston Jr. Like, that's the fit for that defense. Those split high looks, he can play in the box, he can play over the top. He's also got some reps at the slot. I don't think you're going to need that with Teron Johnson there, but those split safety looks, Kevin Winston Jr., I'll go as far to say his 2023 tape is better than both Nicky Manwari and Malachi Stark's 2024 tape. That's how high I am on Kevin Winston in 2023. Back to the Kansas City Chiefs. Interior defensive line could definitely make some sense here. Replacing Trishawn Wharton, that feels like something they would definitely want to address. This kind of feels like a Shamar Turner spot. Like, because of that and how Trishawn Wharton plays, I think Shamar Turner could definitely be that guy. I think that's a fun fit. A guy that didn't have a whole lot of production, played most of the year banged up, didn't go to the Senior Bowl because he had a stretch fracture. But you go back 2 years ago when he was playing at edge, there's some good tape there. And he's kind of retooled his body to play on the inside. And working next to Chris Jones will certainly be a way to get a whole lot better. All right, back to the Philadelphia Eagles. Uman Mielen or Cameron Williams? Look, I go Cameron Williams in almost all of these mocks. He's just like the perfect guy for this team that's Jeff Stoutland University, right? Like, that guy working with this dude who has tools and traits to go in the first round, that's going to be the play here. Trapilo does play right tackle, though. And, like, if Lane Johnson announced he was retiring, like, in 10 minutes, I would go with Ozzie Trapilo instead. But if you got a year of Lane Johnson, I would go with Cameron Williams here. Dude, want to throw on Uman Mielen, definitely somebody who could be in play there as well. Well, guys, I had fun doing this. Again, normally I come with this as a scripted mock draft, and I have an idea of where I'm going to go with what pick. But today we got to do something a little different, and we got to kind of play it off the fly and just kind of give you my initial thoughts and what I'm seeing with each and every pick and kind of what I'm hearing from people I'm talking to. But also wanted to get a video up here on the channel. Don't want it to die out on me, so I appreciate anybody who's checking this out on my personal channel. If you haven't yet, go subscribe over to 32 Beat Writers. That's where, a majority of my draft coverage is at. When you're seeing this is a day before. We're going to be going live with Cody Carpenter, breaking down how free agency has changed the draft. And like I said, Saturday, another 2-round mock coming on the 32 Beat Writers YouTube channel and on our X account. And it's coming with one of my personal favorite names in the space when I looked up to since I started doing this. So really excited for that video to come out. I'm excited for you all to see me collab with that mock draft analyst, or that draft analyst, I should say. Guys, that's going to do it for me. Love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section, or if you want to shoot me a DM on X at TJ Wingert, spelled Wengert. Who's your favorite team? Who went too high? Who went too low? What'd you think of the haul I gave your squad? All that fun stuff. Let me hear your thoughts. Again, whether it's in the DMs or in the comments, let me hear them. That is going to do it for me. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I am signing off.